Court denies Nnamdi Kanu bail, orders accelerated hearing. APC to pick Ondo governorship candidate by April 25, pegs forms at 50 million naira. Sanu Nasu's strike enters second day, federal government falls hardline stance. Let's take headlines from outside Nigeria. Police raid South African parliament speaker's home over corruption allegations. Tunisia-Libya border crossing closed due to clashes. Tonight on Politics HQ, as stakeholders call for a new constitution for Nigeria, the question of whether the country needs a bicameral legislature has become a focal point. Now, should the country maintain its current setup or should it revert to a parliamentary system? Also tonight, Nigerian soldiers have been tragically killed in a recent attack in Delta State, and this has raised concerns about security in the region. We'll talk about this more on the program tonight. My name is Kofi Bartels. This is Politics HQ. Welcome. Yesterday at a dialogue on the Nigerian Constitution, a group known as the Patriots organized that dialogue. It's a pan-Nigerian group of eminent national leaders of thought, and they organized that in honor of the late Professor Ben Nwabueze, Nigerian constitutional lawyer, an author, and Parana Secretary General of the Socio-Cultural Organization, Ohaneze Igbo. Well, the stakeholders there reiterated the call for a new constitution. Now, their view is that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended lacks the legitimacy of Nigerians. Speaker after speaker after speaker made a case. Chief Emeka Anyaoku, former Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Governor of Lagos State, Victor Attah, former Governor of Akwa-Ibom, James Ibori, former Governor of Delta, Aminu Tambuwal, former Speaker of the House of Representatives and former Governor of Sokoto State. I must add, he is currently a senator, amongst others. The list goes on. Tried to make a case for that particular new constitution. But with the new constitution comes the question of the legislature. What sort of legislature should Nigeria have? Some have advocated for a return to the parliamentary era which Nigeria practiced in the First Republic under the 1960 and the 1963 constitutions. Now, with the 1979 constitution introducing the presidential system of government for the first time in Nigeria's political history, and this was carried over to the 1999 constitution. Someone is with me in the studio who knows more about this than I do and who will tell us way more than my intro has told us. It's a pleasure, a big pleasure to have in the studio tonight Dr. Tunji Abayomi. He is a legal practitioner, is a pro-chancellor of Adekunle Ajasin University. He is a constitutional lawyer, and I must add, he was a panelist at that dialogue. Doc, it's good to have you on the program tonight. Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
You've been talking about this for years.
For quite a while.
For years. I watched you several times talk about this.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what are the main advantages of, maintaining Nigeria's current bicameral and presidential system? What are the pros and cons when compared to going back to the parliamentary system?
Well, the issue as to the choice, whether parliamentary or Republican following the American system, was really basically the establishment of government structure was largely between the British system and the American system. I'm talking of in the English world. I think it was well debated in 1979 before the decision was taken. I think the problem mainly was the limited input of the citizens in the parliamentary system. As you are well aware, in the parliamentary system, at the end of it all, it's the leaders that actually decide on the representative of the state. You have ministers and so on. They come together and then they select prime minister who represents the state. And then, of course, you have basically titular president, who is basically ineffective. Well, we ran that, and I believe we learned from our experience and then opted for the type of bicameral legislative that we have now. But the issue is not just about the legislature. It's important. What people say, the people, it's also about just the very foundation structure of government in our land. Okay. It affects the legislature, it affects the executive, it affects the judiciary.
Okay, so it's not just about the legislature.
It's not just about
it's about the system of governance.
The entire system of government. Our nation, this nation, is at a crossroad. Every Nigerian adult must be worried about the nation. It will take your time, which is considerably far from my time in terms of when we became adult. But then you ask yourself, during this period of your adulthood, you have seen a few governments. Are we moving forward? Are we moving up? Are we developing? Are we getting to the mountaintop? Or are we descending, underdeveloping, or going down to the valley of disorder, abyss, undevelopment? I think most Nigerians will come to the inevitable conclusion that it hasn't been uhuru, hasn't been interesting, it hasn't been a happy.
But Prof,
yes.
is this more about the performance attitude of the dramatist personnel who have held these positions of responsibility, who have managed the Commonwealth of Nigerians? Is it about their conduct, or is it about the system that they operate in? Because you've said, and I want you to put your neck, stick your neck out a bit, to tell us where you stand on this issue of the system of government Nigeria should adopt. So is it about the system or the personnel? And which system are you advocating for?
Okay. First and foremost, it's about both. The whole system, the structure of government that we have now, lacks, as far as I'm concerned, discipline, lacks control, and guideless. I would give you a simple example in our country. One of the tragedies, because we are talking of persons and the system, and I'll come to both of them. One of the greatest tragedies of this nation is that the leaders are not under any control. Okay. One of our major problems. Heads of institutions are basically like small gods who are exercised unlimited, almost illimitable power. You take a simple example of the Accountant General of the Federation that took billions, I think something like 6 billion, embezzled 6 billion. Yes. And, you know, there's scarcely anything happening. The fact that he could even conceive it means that there's a presumption that anything is, regardless of how strange, is possible. You go from there, you go to the pension, the head of the pension. Now we come to
the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
Yes.
You can go on and on.
Yes, yes. We now come to the governor of the central bank. But why is it like that? It's like that because the system allows for it. In our nation today, the federal government, we have basically 38 governments in Nigeria, 36 in the states, Federal Capital Territory, and the federal government. the federal government takes 52% of the wealth of the nation and messes up everything.
So Prof, are you therefore saying that whether you're advocating for a unicameral legislature or a parliamentary system of government as a way of reducing, government spending and addressing the excesses of those who man the institutions of government?
Well, definitely, in my view, because the economy of this nation, in my view, cannot sustain a bicameral legislature. Even if we talk of corruption, I mean, if assuming that every legislature is corrupt for purposes of argument, certainly the corruption will be reduced if we have less number.
So we have one. We just have
we
one.
We have less number of legislators.
So instead of having two parties, we have one party.
Yes, you understand what I mean. So
that's very interesting.
I mean, you understand what I mean. But the truth of the matter is that the cost of running government is so abnormal. In essence, in our country, we spent more of the wealth of the nation maintaining government instead of maintaining the needs of the people. Government is supposed to be established for the well-being of the people, for their happiness. But that is not it.
Doctor, please hold it, Doc. We had Segun Shomi, who was a public affairs analyst in the studio yesterday, and this is what he had to say.
You're having a conversation of patriots, and the people who will be the ones that have to believe and run with it into the future were totally absent. People like me, people that are younger than me. Conversation about the future of the people without the people that are going to be in that future. The past cannot be the only conversation of the future. You almost get the impression that they are romanticizing a parliamentary system of government, sort of. And then you ask yourself, are these people kids? You ran a parliamentary system before. The crisis that you were having among yourselves in the parliament, especially the Southwestern Parliament, created the reason for that even republic to become destroyed. Now you are pretending as if you have purged yourself of that kind of behavior, and then you are maybe asking that we should leave the presidential. You say it's expensive. If it is expensive, can't you cut down the bills and the money you pay yourselves and all of that and make it a bit more, cheaper for us? So that if the cost of governance is high, the solution for that is to change the system of government. Are they even listening to themselves? A more ideal way to approach it is to trim the pork. You can trim the pork. You can come and the legislature can make a law and says, going forward, nobody in this country will ever devalue the naira, and they better listen to that. That's a very smart thing to do. You can write it into the Constitution that nobody is going to be allowed to devalue the currency, because aside a store of value and a means of exchange, it also represents the integrity and the perception of strength of a nation. If you write that into the law, you would have done a constitutional amendment. You can say that, okay, we're going to normalize the equal number of people for the reps, just like we did to the senators. Every state brings 3. You can say that.
That was Segun Shomi, public affairs analyst, yesterday right here on Politics Issue. Dr. Tunjababi, what do you think about what he said?
Well, 2 points. He's making 2 points. One I agree with, the other one I disagree with. His position that the substitute for the current, challenges of government, a parliamentary system as a substitute, I agree with him, it's not a substitute. I do agree with him that if the problem is the cost of government, we can find ways to cut it down, because, like I said earlier, we evolved to a presidential system because of the clatters and the chaos and the conflagration, so to say.
Right from the 1963 Constitution.
Yes, of the Parliament. It really was very intense.
Tell us a bit about that.
Oh, it was a very difficult time in governance, and the foundation of the nation was actually shaking.
How chaotic was it? What about it was chaotic?
Well,
what about it was...
There was a lot of ethnic intolerance. There was regional intolerance. There were largely personality intolerance among the leaders of government. You know what I mean? And then, so it was a very difficult time. And then it was also the time we had different, I think it was also a time of wet year, all this, violence all over the, remember it was also a time that led to the jailing of Awolowo and a number of, it was the regional system was very, very chaotic. So I do agree with him that it was an evolution, we evolved to that. But to now say that, the elders, I think there's a wisdom in the saying that, I think it's a Yoruba saying, that an elder may not have, may not have no clothes, but...
said in Yoruba.
Yes, that, ọmọdé lè láṣọ tó ní bọ̀ kò lè lákìísà tó àgbà. A young person may have no clothes, but he certainly cannot have as many rags as an elder, for the simple reason that the elders have gone through many new clothes.
Interesting.
There's nothing more exciting about new clothes. He has seen it all.
Okay, and now, how does that apply to this?
And now he gains from experience.
Okay.
You understand? For example, I was detained 3 times in the struggle for democracy. 1 time for 1 whole year. The 3rd one in just prison. Now, if you are young, how do you understand the experience? There's no way you will understand these experiences. You have not gone through the crucible. And I think it was Niccolo Machiavelli who said, you should study the lives of those who have gone before you. See where they succeeded or failed and learn from their experience.
So it therefore maybe means that you are saying, you seem to be saying we shouldn't go back to 1960, 1963.
No.
We should, but you're still saying we need to cut down on and change the current presidential or the current legislative system.
Yes.
So what do we need? Is
well, for example, I don't think we need a bicameral legislature. We could look into that. If we cannot have a single legislative house, then perhaps we could cut down.
Okay.
So
it's a sort of hybrid.
Yes, we could cut down. And there are lots of things we can cut. For example, you look at a number of governors that became senators. How does it make sense, for God's sake? And I don't even know how they're able to have good sleep in the midst of so much poverty we have in our country, where an ordinary worker will spend well over maybe 300 years to make an annual salary of a senator. Now you have a situation where governors who have spent 8 years receiving huge pension. You understand what I mean? They go into the Senate and they're still receiving their own pension from the states and also collecting money from. These are things that can be regulated. There are so many loopholes.
Okay, Doc, please hold the thought. We'll come back. We have to go for a quick break, and when we return, we will continue the conversation with Dr. Tunji Abame. Please stay with us. Back at Still Politics HQ right here on New Central Television. I'm Kofi Abartels. A guest still with us, Dr. Tunji Abame, is a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer that is Pro-Chancellor of Adekunle Ajasi University. One of the panelists at yesterday's dialogue organized by the Patriots, where a call was made for a new Nigerian constitution. And of course, we've been looking at the need for either a new system of government, talking about the parliamentary system, switching back to 1960/1963 Constitution or having one, a unicameral legislature. And I guess I said, yes, he agrees with those, like our guest yesterday, Shegun Shomi, who said it may be dangerous for Nigeria to switch to a parliamentary system because of the chaos that ensued at that time. But he still insists that Nigeria needs to have a single legislature. Doctor, I want us to look at the argument. At the time, some have made the point that the president is too powerful. The Nigerian constitution gives the president, the executive, sweeping powers. And some have used that as a basis to advocate for return to the parliamentary system, where they say that we cannot even maintain the states. We must go back to the regional structures. You've talked about that. But the argument could be made that Nigeria as it is today needs a strong leadership. Strong leadership. And if you look at the chaos that we see from time to time, on the floor of the Senate, where they can't even, conduct themselves properly, as some of them said, that it will be quite a worrisome time. What do you say about this?
Well, the nation is made up of leaders and followers. Every nation is made up of leaders and followers. Leaders transform the hope and the aspiration of the people to great possibility, realization, and the comfort. The people themselves are inspired. But in Nigeria, it is important that, yes, we spend a whole lot of our time talking about leaders, but we've got problem with our people too. It may be as a result of failure of leadership that has also become a problem in the sense of developing appropriate citizens. So but here now we are focusing on the leader. And the reason why we need to focus on the leader is because every leader has a capacity to transform and inspire. Now, the issue as to the power of the president is not just the president. It's just the nature of government. The executive arm needs to be controlled. The state governors, they're just as powerful in their states as the president is in the federal system.
And they most times get off the radar.
Yes, you understand what I mean? And the legislature, which is supposed to guide and control, monitor on behalf of the people, the executive power. The tendency of the executive in a nation is to exercise illimitable powers. But the legislature is exceedingly weak. Very weak. Basically.
But have they not chosen to be weak? Doc, look at what we've been seeing over the past few years. Apart from maybe we can say the likes of Umar Galinaba, who stood toe-to-toe with Obasanjo, the likes of Saraki, who also did what he did. Some would say the rest have. Is it because the legislature in Nigeria has chosen to be weak, or the constitution and the system of government makes them weak?
Well, basically, too, the people themselves. I think it was during the war. You may not know it. The Biafran symbol in the radio is the pride of liberty is eternal vigilance. The pride of liberty is eternal vigilance. But are the people themselves vigilant in the pursuit of the ends they want government to give to them? That's one problem. I ran for governor of Ondo State 3 times. And in one of those instances, I got 5 votes in a vote possibility of 3,000. Why did I have 5 votes? I called them 5 honorable votes For the simple reason that I'm not going to bribe you. I'm not going to keep you in any hotel and feed you for 2 weeks. I'm not going to, do all those things. I refuse. And the people said they won't vote for you unless you give them money. I said, no problem. There's no problem. I want to serve you. So why do I need to bribe you?
So you're saying the people themselves, in this case the legislature, have chosen to be weak and not to stand up to the executive.
Yes, because, by their act, by their choice, and their pursuit. Because in reality, if they were to take seriously the power that is invested on them to exercise it on behalf of the people, we won't have the type of problem we have in the country. Because you can always call the executive, but when you have a legislature where the members are only preoccupied with money, finding wealth, personal wealth, you will go to other countries, great countries. The preoccupation of leaders is about service, about values.
So how do we get there?
How did we get here? Well, I think...
How do we get to that
How
point?
did we get to the point? I explained it.
How do we get to the point where the preoccupation of the legislators will be about serving?
That's exactly what I want to talk about. It actually began, first of all, by immense poverty that is created. Interestingly enough, this poverty is also created by leaders. And when they create such poverty, they create desperation by the people. And the people cannot see clearly. I gave a simple example. When I was campaigning, I said, listen, these leaders that you are voting for, they will steal your money, embezzle the money that's supposed to be used for your benefit. Once they have the money, you obviously they increase your desperation and your hardship and your problem and your needs. So they come round and they say that, look, you don't want to vote for your children who want to work for you, who want to sacrifice for you. They don't have money now. Because you are in desperate state, you are looking at them, those who have money. So they taunt you with your money. You understand what I mean? And because you are so poor, you are very susceptible. That's really the situation.
Poverty has been weaponized as well.
Yes, poverty has been weaponized to the disadvantage of the ordinary citizens who cannot actually see clearly.
Doctor, I'm afraid we have to leave it at that.
Yes.
So I think my thesis from what you've said, my take home, is that it's not about the system as it alone. It's also about the people.
Yes.
And we need to change our culture and our values and the things we hold here to be able to build
and of course, the Constitution itself, because this Constitution is imposed.
But with the unicameral legislature, it's
one of the things that will be discussed. What we are saying, advocating, is that the people should sit around the table and agree on the type of government over the people.
We have to go. But there were no young people in your midst, and
there were quite a number. I'm a young man.
Yes, and that is something that we need to talk about at some point in time. Yes, Dr. Tunji Nwabueze, it's been great having you.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and that's the size of our package tonight. Not our package, rather, the first conversation. I'm sure I gave my producers a bit of a scare there. We'll be right back after this break. We'll go to Delta State and look at the latest in security. Stay with us.